Well, everybody, welcome back to Mars on Life. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Mancini, joined with me as always,
Sebastian Shug in the flesh.
kinda, sorta.
Yeah, sort of, honestly.
And we've had a few guests on the show thus far. We are back again with yet another guest. Guest, please introduce yourself.
Oh, wow. Hey, y'all. I am Genise. I don't know what else. I'm Genise. I am the host of an Instagram show called The Jumpoff. I am also a co-founder, director, writer, producer, everything with that at a production company called Broke Energy with my friend Bree.
Wow. Rolling out the red carpet, and you already have a ton of hats to wear.
Well, got to be fashionable.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, just welcome to the show. You were definitely somebody that we talked about when we started the show. You were somebody that I brought up to Sebastian to have on.
Oh,
You
wow.
and I have worked together in the recent past, so
Mm.
that's how we crossed paths. And now you're here. So yeah, I guess kind of before we kind of get deep into the interview, I guess have you been with everything going on? Uh, all the crazy stuff in the world, Bleach not included, of course.
Ooh. I will throw out there, this is my first official interview, so thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
You're very welcome.
Um, the COVID, the Corona, the Rona. Let's see. So I kind of have, I don't want to say mixed feelings. I do have a kind of a jaded view on it because I did fall to the Rona or Corona.
Mm-hmm.
So I did test positive for it in it was like the middle of March. Before that, though, when people were saying that it was like the flu, I think in some aspects, yes, in the sense of when flu season comes around, everybody does kind of have their guard up about, I don't want to catch the flu, like, don't cough on me. So I think that kind of mindset was right, where we should, take precautions. But when you actually get it, because I did have the symptoms, it is not like the flu at all. I had the flu for the first time last year.
Mm-hmm.
I had
Mm.
never had a flu vaccine or anything like that. So I worked with kids. So I got that. And this one to me is completely different because it's obviously, like they said, more respiratory, but it it really just like that shortness of breath and that like pain in your chest is serious. Like
Mm-hmm.
so I was with my parents and they were taking care of me, and I would get up. They kind of sectioned off parts of the house that I could and couldn't go into, so I was kind of isolated to a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so getting up from the chair, just going into the bathroom that I was set to use, like I would get winded with that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And even sleeping at night, like with the flu, you have to kind of sleep with your mouth open because you have a stuffy nose. But with this one, like you can't lay on your chest because that would be painful, and then laying on your back, like you get a pain and kind of like, when you take a deep breath, it's like a sharp pain. So if you lay on your back, like that hurts. So then you try and lay on your side. So it was definitely it hit deeper and hit a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
So I I think people, and I know y'all said on your last episode that people our age, probably won't be hit that hard with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just interesting to me. Someone that I went to high school with did pass away from it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I'm not to say that I'm not healthy, but I'm not out here eating my vegetables every day.
No, no, yeah, of course. Okay.
But that person, was somebody that played sports and was super active. So it is really interesting to me that how it affects different people. I didn't have to go to the hospital, thank goodness. But it really that care of washing your hands and just being careful is very important. Like I was with my
Mm-hmm.
parents who are both older, and we were in the same house for like 2.5 weeks, and they didn't get it. but my mom, she had the bleach everywhere, but they were washing their hands constantly. So if you take the precautions, like, you should be good. But then, you can't be out here. I was willy-nilly out here, but,
Right.
so.
You had something going on kind of the week that all of this sort of got started. It was some kind of a red carpet kind
Oh,
of an
yeah.
event. I know we're kind of jumping ahead a bit, but I guess tell me a little bit about that event, because I remember seeing it on social media, but I wanted to ask, but I was also asking work-related questions about, hey, are the jobs fine? In the
Right.
middle of all that going on. So I didn't get to ask you about that at that time.
Yeah. So I was in a short film, and we had a screening at Sunset and Gower, which was so cool. Um, and the screening actually had to get cut in half because they started implementing the gatherings couldn't be over a certain amount of people, so it kind of downsized to that. But it was just a short film that I was in, that actually just yesterday got picked up by a film festival, and I don't know the name. I'm so sorry, but so we had like a slight red carpet kind of event because it was raining outside. But after it, I went to celebrate with my friends, and I think that's where I possibly caught the virus, because so we're out in Hollywood. This is the night before that they shut down everything and said bars and clubs were closed. And so it was kind of a desert, like a desert town. And we were just out at Trejo's Tacos and just went around. And then this girl, one of my friends, she's kind of drunk and she's talking to us. And she like comes up, puts her arm around me, and she's talking to me. And in the middle of her talking to me, she like spits and a droplet lands on my lip. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the end. This is literally the end of it for me. And sure enough, I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but I was like, oh my gosh.
There's a specific meme that maybe it's in bad taste, I don't know, but it just had me dying. No pun intended. There was this girl who was speaking into the microphone of this guy just like out in Hollywood or whatever, and her voice was really raspy, and she was like, "Oh, I actually have the coronavirus." She wasn't wearing a mask or anything, and the guy's just looking at her. And then she says, "So just wipe the mic off when you're done." And then it just cuts to that coffin meme of the four guys holding up the coffin and dancing.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was hilarious in context, but
yeah.
it's because I guess with myself, I have not come into contact, thankfully, with anyone yet who has had it, and
Plus, you're an essential worker.
Well, plus I'm an essential worker, but I'm in the back working on machinery all day. I guess sort of to just, I don't want to say dispel the rumor because curiosity now has me. I know you said what it's like, but in terms of getting over it, how would you say that process is? Because I'm just genuinely curious here. Is it just a matter of medicine or just having your body work its magic?
See, I am one to not really take medicine because it's just not my thing.
Okay.
So I rode that wave. I think I had a headache at one point, and I get really bad migraines. So I took something one of the days, but for the rest, I just rode it out myself. I generally don't get sick. So I feel like it when it hit me, it did hit me. But I say I was like actually really sick. Maybe I would say maybe 5 days, maybe 6, where it was like I was just like in the bed all day. I did have all of the symptoms like the runny nose, the cough, the sneezing, everything, the fever. And it really, I would say the first maybe 3 days were the worst, where like I was just done. But then getting better, water is like, if I'm sick, drinking water is like something that is a must for me, but then I also
Mhm.
can't just lay in the bed. I
Right. Y-
I feel like that makes me sicker.
Yeah, because you don't want to like stew in your own sickness and everything.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of a double-edged sword. You can't go out, but you
Yeah.
don't want to stay in. Yeah.
Yeah, so not that I was like, walking in contact with people, but like I would get up and go sit in my designated chair and watch TV, or like halfway watch TV, but then at least kind of like read or keep myself like, not that I was out here reading books after books, because it like I would get dizzy, but just not
Mhm.
laying down. So I would say like towards the fifth or sixth day, I was feeling pretty good, but for me to get over stuff, I do have to get up. So I was like walking around the parts of my parents' house that they allowed me to walk around, and just kind of like getting back to normal. But yeah, medicine just isn't for me. But if I had to say to take medicine, I don't even know if that would have, yeah.
I know like Advil was off the market because it like enhanced the symptoms. I mean that's just something that
Oh.
and everyone was kind of in a tiff like, oh, take Tylenol, even though
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol is just the same adverse effects. So, but I'm not a doctor. I could just go off of what Big Brother tells me on the
No,
news.
yeah, when they called me and told me the diagnosis and like what to do and what not to do, um, okay, I want to dispel this as well,
Mhm.
because so I got tested. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So I got tested in Missouri, and I don't know how they do it in California because I know that's where y'all are from.
They
But
actually do the swab up the nose, so they stick it up your nasal cavity. I believe. I believe they
and
still do it this way.
see,
Um,
I got tested by a
Mhm.
throat swab.
okay.
So, and I think that's part of what is causing a lot of like panic with people, because you see those horrific images of people like the with that long Q-tip up their
Yeah,
nose, like,
it
oh.
Yeah.
looks like a what is it, like an 18th century lobotomy where
Mm-hmm.
they stick it through your eye, you know. But yeah,
Right.
anyway.
Well,
And
it's like a
yeah.
it's like a 6-inch long Q-tip, you
Ugh,
know.
pretty much.
And I know that a mutual friend of ours, Kyle, he took it.
Mm.
He had gotten the swab up his nose, and I know that there's an
Yeah.
alternative method of testing. Mind you, there's only one method of testing that's FDA approved, but so there's some places where you can get tests and it may not be an adequate coronavirus test. But
Well,
I
there
know
was
that the
well
other
there was
test you can also get
one
is to detect antibodies as well, where it's just a prick of the finger.
Well, there was one that doctors
Mm.
were just they were lining up cars in a drive-through and just scanning their forehead for a fever. I'm like, what? It's like, what the hell is that supposed to tell me? Other than, oh, I'm hot.
Well, I
You
know that
know?
some of that is, well, and that's just it. I've seen some footage of that in regards to, venues that are reopening, i.e., restaurants or whatever else it may be. But anyway, you were talking about the testing here versus in
I'm
St.
sorry.
Louis.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
Oh no, it's interesting to me because like with the scanning of the forehead, for a fever, I didn't
Mhm.
have a fever the first like few days when I was in the thick of it.
Okay.
So when I called, because I had because the job that I was at, it was like a customer service non-essential job, so they shut it down. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, let me just go home with my family. So when I got here, they you had to call a number and they asked you, a couple of symptoms, and it was like, do you have a fever? Do you have this cough? And so I had all of those things. And at first they were like, oh no, like just stay home. You'll get over it. Then they asked, had I traveled? And I said I had come from California, from LA. So then they're like, oh, okay, we got to get you tested now.
Hmm.
So I like, of course, there are more people, way more people than we know that have it than, have been tested. But the fever was like the main indicator that they were focusing on when I would talk to the doctors. And at first I'm like, you could have all these symptoms, you could have it and not have a fever. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, I'm kind of like, you should be focused a little bit more on that cough, because
Mm-hmm.
the lungs are what, and after the fact, so I think I recovered pretty quickly, but after the fact, I will say that there are lasting, at least for me, my mom, she said she read an article that once you have it, you lose maybe like 20% of your lung function, which I'm like, okay, that sounds like, that's a little bit much for me.
Yikes.
But, but, I do. So again, I'm not out here, as a health expert exercising like I should be, but I was doing like an at home kind of video workout that I've always done kickboxing and would make it through. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I was struggling, but I would make it through. But once I did it after having all of this, like 10 minutes in, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. This is it's too much. So there are times where I'll like catch that kind of like stabbing pain in my chest, and I'm like, oh man, this is not it. So I can see the lasting effects of it, but that, to me, that's the only thing that I can see. But I could see if people really weren't taking care of themselves and really aren't taking this seriously, how it could like creep up and get you like in a bad way. So
Mm-hmm.
just tell people, stay at home if you don't. And okay, and then here's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I love
Here,
going to the
here-
grocery store real quick.
I was like,
So,
here we go.
just
the sigh.
real quick, before all of this, going to the grocery store was like my self-care. So I only go now if I have to. But it blows my mind that people are still out here without masks or any type of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I was in Ralph's. This was like 2 weeks ago, minding my good business, standing in the aisle, looking for whatever. And this guy comes up, and I'm like, all right, he's like about 3 feet, not 6, but 3 feet away from me, but all right, I'll let it slide. And he gets to coughing, and is like,
Oh no.
not there's it's not an elbow cough, it's not even like a hand cough, it's just like out in the open. And
Oh,
this lady at the other end of the aisle, she looks at me, I look at her, like, you could, the panic in our eyes, and I'm like trying to swerve my way away, and he is just like cough. And there was a worker that came and said, excuse me, due to this, do you have a protective covering? If not, we may have to ask you to leave. And he like put up this whole fight, and I'm like, oh no, this is,
yeah. That's
yeah,
that's just about how it goes, because it's like, they feel entitled as a customer. Well, we're helping business, and it's
yeah,
like, masks, you can make one.
exactly.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I feel no sympathy turning people. Actually, I feel no remorse turning people away when it
Yeah,
comes to that, because it's like,
yeah. So that, and I just, yeah. And I get the whole, you don't want to live in fear, to some extent. I get that, but the amount of people that I've seen with they're just like, I live in a kind of a newer building, and
Mm-hmm.
people, I heard 3 doors down, they were having a party, and I'm like, it's got to be at least like
Oh.
7 people in there, and our
jeez.
rooms are pretty small. So I'm like, should I call I was gonna be petty and be like, oh my gosh, there's a disturbance.
There's a
It sounds like 10 people. I didn't, but yeah, that I'm just like, oh man, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they're
it's.
really cracking down on people. I know they're especially doing this in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
but they had a sort of a time where like snitching on your neighbors was just a thing, And I'm
Mm,
not sure if whether or not I was like in support of that due to health concerns or due to hell, even political reasons, but needless to say, I laugh at everything. It's just kind of
mm,
who I am as a person. And I just looked at that and I'm like, they're taking precautionary measures, and I'm sure the people just want to be safe, but more so they're just having fun with it. And I can respect that. So,
Mhm.
to a certain extent, and this wasn't like a crowd of, 7 people. This was like a gathering of 50 plus. Okay. So, people in the park, people at the beach. Not to throw anyone under the bus or anything. I actually knew someone who went to the beach a few nights ago.
Mm.
They were just like, okay, I'm gonna go to the beach now. I'm like, it's 11. So
Were they wearing a sports jacket with anchors on it, and they were walking around saying, amity, as you know, means friendship?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
are we
Like,
over that, Ryan? This was an
oh,
episode ago.
oh, hey,
Recall.
you know what? I've been bringing that up with people, and
I
I've
know.
had a variety of responses. But yeah, hearing stories about people going out or people trying to find some way to kind of, it's like an obstacle course. I mean, there's people that are just staying home and they're getting their groceries delivered to their home. There's somebody I know from Brazil. That's what her and her daughters are doing. They're just having groceries dropped off on their doorstep. My folks will go out and they're still getting groceries, but they're wearing masks, they're washing their hands constantly.
Right.
But it's scary too when you hear reports about gatherings and people wanting to get together. And I was just having this conversation with one of my neighbors outside about how, oh, well, people just have to figure it out for themselves. And it's like, no. Why would you trust people? Why would you trust people in the middle of a global health crisis? Trusting people right about now is the last thing that I would want to do. And on top of that, one of you mentioned the UK, and Genise, you might find this interesting too. In the UK, they're thinking about lifting some of their restrictions in regards to filmmaking. So that basically means like TV shows and films can potentially continue filming. They just got to make sure they have all the safeguards in place behind the camera. Of course, the irony is that if you're actors and you have to perform, and especially actors that may have to like kiss each other, it's kind of like you got to make sure that they're tested and that they're, you got to make sure Robert Pattinson is not going to potentially pass COVID to Zoe Kravitz while they're filming the Batman, which is one of the movies that can greatly benefit from pulling back some of those restrictions. Even though the British Prime Minister kind of surprised everyone, basically saying, "Yeah, we're not getting back to normal anytime soon." Yeah, it's so. I guess kind of circling that back, you had mentioned that you were originally from St. Louis. I guess what was kind of your trajectory in terms of becoming an artist and moving out to LA?
Ooh, good segue.
Good segue.
Y'all are good with those segues on here. Well, growing up in St. Louis, if you've never been, it is an interesting city. It's small enough to be like to have a small town feel, but big enough that it is on the map. And people know about it for the bad reasons, but they know about it.
How are the ribs?
Okay, see, that's a good reason. Yes.
Is that what you just said? How are the ribs? We're in a global pandemic, Miss Mancini.
Hey, I used to work at a restaurant that sold St. Louis ribs, and I once had a guy say, "Those don't look like St. Louis ribs," and I was like,
"Oh, well, then
hey man, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to New York, I've been to Nevada. I'm sorry I haven't been to St. Louis yet. What can I say?"
It's a
anyway,
flyover place, but
yeah,
the ribs are, yes, that it is one of the reasons to come here.
Okay.
That and to pick the ribs up and keep on moving. But I mean, I love St. Louis because it made me who I am. But being here, there are a lot of closed-minded people here. And it's really, it is a conservative, St. Louis it's kind of more liberal, but this is a very conservative place to be. And so I grew up in a place where it's kind of clear cut, like you do something that's going to make you some good money so you can have a really nice house. You can maintain that trajectory in life.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a great dream and all, but people around here, like lawyers and doctors, and those things are amazing, but my mind just didn't grasp science and math like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the creative side really drew me in, but there's not much of that around here. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
better, but back in the day, I went to a performing arts elementary school, and the style of learning was so different. There were no desks. We had dance class, like to learn, you would learn through dance or learn through song. So it was really different and unique. And that having that as an elementary school student really shaped how I saw the world. And so then switching school districts into a place that didn't kind of foster that kind of learning, it was really hard to just find myself. So I always had this dream of like moving to California because it's just so beautiful there, and I just always loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school here because my parents were like, you got to get a real job, you got to get a real degree. So I went to St. Louis University, got a degree in communication with a minor in marketing so I could get a job. And so did the marketing thing, but then really wasn't fulfilled. So I auditioned for some schools. I moved out to LA to go to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and so that's in Hollywood. And I really just felt like I belonged. But then I went for acting. In my second semester, there was a lot of mess that happened with the school and the program, and so I had to
Mm-hmm.
transfer to New York. And I am not one. I initially did not want to go to New York, but I'm thankful that I did. I actually miss it out there. But being out there, it really showed me that I really do want to be in the arts, because it's a different world in New York, but out there everybody has something that they're doing, and there's like an endless just possibilities of things that you can do. The way people hustle out there, like I know a guy, he was like, yeah, I wanted to be a rapper, but that didn't pan out. So I'm making children's songs for kids to learn to, so they could learn their ABCs and their numbers. And he gets paid doing that. And I'm like,
That
huh?
is the
Wow.
biggest 180 I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That is
And
wild.
but and it and you so you can do those kind of things out there. So just being in New York, it really showed me that no matter what you have, you can
Mm-hmm.
turn it into something, even if it doesn't, like, it's not the traditional way of making art, of being like a painter or an actor or a singer. If you can do
Right.
something, you can twist it into something else. And then I moved back to St. Louis to get some money, and then I moved back to LA. And when I got back to LA, I kind of lost the passion a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
then working at the job that we met at,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I don't want to give them, I want to give them recognition, but I really don't, but whatever. But
It's two
they,
letters.
you know,
Just say it's two
listen,
letters, you know?
listen,
You never
you
know. It
know,
could be three. Ah,
Ah.
uh, okay, okay.
be three.
Yeah, I guess yeah, in
God, we are
this,
we are horrible at hindsight, honestly.
I mean, I'm
uh,
genuinely just pointing a finger at a company that I have had no relation with ever in my life. So I'm just throwing that monkey wrench just to like further confuse our listeners. Anyway, um,
uh,
anywho,
so being at that studio, it really, I feel like sometimes you are taken to, now I don't know if y'all are spiritual or religious or whatever, but for me, sometimes I feel like the good Lord will take you to a situation, and it might not be the way that you think it's going to be, but it's there's like a motivator. So
mhm.
being working at a studio really like set that fire for me. So that's like my long-winded, sorry, answer.
Oh no, please don't apologize. This is your episode. You know,
Stop it.
please.
And we're only now at the half hour mark.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I guess when it comes to kind of settling in Los Angeles and getting to interact with other actors and other people that, you know, they may be fighting for the same kinds of jobs that, you know, you had been looking at, or, you know, you may have kind of built kind of some, I don't know, some sort of coalition with other actors and creatives that you've met along the way. I guess what I take it those two processes have been pretty split from each other. They've been pretty different in terms of, you know, kind of finding the right work with other people, also trying to get said work, but then also collaborating and getting to build yourself within a broader community of people.
It's an interesting world in LA. I think coming from the Midwest, I had this like, yeah, everybody's great and everybody's in everything for the right reasons and nobody will take advantage of you or anything like that. So when I got out to LA,
Oh, what a world.
Man, I was like, yeah, give them a chance. Give them a chance. They're not doing wrong. So, you know, you would tell people about opportunities or you would try and work with people and, you know, things would just fall through or people would take the opportunity and run with it for themselves. So I really did, after having been in New York, realize that you have to make your own opportunities, but then also the people that you connect yourself with need to have the same type of mindset. So in terms of finding work, since I do have the marketing degree, so when I was looking for work, it was kind of like, what can get me a step closer in the entertainment world? Because marketing really, as an actor, it's all about how you market yourself and how you position yourself, because you're the product. So you have to, you know, make yourself look what am I trying to say? I
Well,
don't know the word.
look presentable, look
Yes.
marketable, you know, look available, I guess.
Yes. And so in that, I was able to find some kind of side hustles that really led themselves to bigger opportunities. But then also in my back pocket, while I was here in St. Louis, I would teach. So as an actual job, I did find out in LA a few teaching gigs, which I love children and just helping them, because here growing up, it was hard to find teachers that were open to letting you explore and, you know, be yourself. So I love being a teacher and just, you know, seeing kids and, you know, helping them realize their potential and what they want to do, not just the dreams and aspirations that their parents put on them. But that's another story. But so that was my side hustle that I kind of had in my back pocket. And people are like, you know, how are you making all this money to survive out here? And I'm like, oh, I'm teaching. And they're like, huh? So I'm like, you know, you can't be a one-trick pony. You got to come with different. And ironically, I was teaching math, which, it's not my strong suit. In hindsight, they probably should have vetted me, but the kids learned what they needed to learn anyway. But in terms of working with actors and creating, I've now adopted this kind of mentality of, I'm going to step back and people will really show you what's important to them by what they give their time to. So people that I keep in my camp are people that have consistently shown that if they want to make something happen, or if they are about something, they make the time for it and then they put effort into it. So when I first got out here, a lot of people that I was in school with, they're like, oh yeah, let's do this. We, you know, had all these grand ideas, which were great. But like they say, I don't know who says this. I'm just going to say they, because I don't know who to give the credit to. But like they say, the richest place is the graveyard, because people have these ideas, but they never act on them. And so people would say all these things and then months would pass and it's like, hey, whatever happened to that? And they're like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't have time. And it's like, what do you mean you didn't have time? We not working. So what are you, you know, like, what are you doing? So now the people that I work with are people that I know have consistently followed through on what they say, but then also people that come to me and are like, oh, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? And they already come with something tangible that's like, I can see that they put in work. And when I go to people, I also wanted to hold myself to that same standard. So if I pitch an idea, I'm already coming with a script or, you know, some type of storyboard, like, okay, this is what we're going to do, or a shot list, or, you know, something, so that people can see that I'm serious about this too. Because I feel like in LA, wasted time is like the killer of all.
Yeah, it's like the death knell. And it's like you said, especially during this time where I think creatives are really expanding their horizons of what you can really do behind a computer desk, because really, where else are you going to go to do your work? Building up this arsenal of talent that, you know, I think people would have never thought possible because they weren't in quarantine. You know, it really kind of stimulates the imagination.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that even in terms of this very podcast, it's something that Sebastian and I have had to kind of work around, and obviously, you know, doing Skype calls was something we never really anticipated this early in our progress with the show, but you know, we were able to make it work. And even if anything from, you know, theater, films, art shows, museum exhibits, whatever they may be, even though a lot of that is closed now, it's just kind of about, okay, so how can we work around that and find an angle where we can talk about it? And like, you know, we did that with the Oaxacan murals for that episode. We talked about that, and you know, I had already seen them in person, but you know, I think, wasn't that our last kind of regular episode where it was you and me recording at our undisclosed location, Sebastian?
Believe so.
Might be closed a little bit longer than I anticipated. At least until the end of the year.
Well, undisclosed. Well, you know, still not disclosing this information. I may have to return there for, let us say, further advancement. I know we talked about this before the episode started, but yeah, it's gonna be remaining closed. I think up to August.
No, it's through the fall, and as far as I know, it's basically through to December. So potentially you and I might not, you know, unless we're able to go somewhere else, you know, that might not be a viable location in the future. Anyway, yeah.
I'll get details and send it out. No, I'm just kidding.
And on top of that, I'm pretty sure I think we kind of gave it away in our sort of intro episode on touchdowns and tangents. So I might have just given people a way to kind of fact check me, which is something that normally doesn't happen. Anyway. But
look
yeah,
who's so high and mighty.
We've I know I might have snitched ourselves. I might have snitched this podcast.
Can't be fact checked.
You could edit it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know, but at the same time, we're still able to talk about things, and you know, obviously, as much as coronavirus has shut everything down, you know, we've still been able to kind of find a way to find relevant news information and talk about it. And plus, you know, we can still kind of celebrate and find things to acknowledge or discuss on. I know next week, without giving it away, there's a film that's celebrating its 40th anniversary, in which we will be going into detail on that next week with some help.
God damn it.
Sebastian's not happy about it because it's a subject we've talked at length about.
You know, no.
Literally,
it's not that I'm not happy. You know, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. It's just the fact that, you know, I even said this in the episode when we did it. Oh God, what was this? Episode 3.
Yeah.
You know, you can only beat a dead horse to its basic molecular structure. That there's no more horse. Okay.
On top of everything else that you've been working on and doing lately, I guess tell us a little bit. First off, you mentioned that you were the co-founder for Broke Energy. Tell me a little bit about that.
Ooh, okay, Broke Energy. So that is a entertainment production company that myself and Bree Maylee we created. We both met at work, and we both were going through some kind of like rough life things, and we realized that we both like comedy, so we wanted to create content that got people laughing in case, or so people, in my opinion, people, when they are laughing, there's no space for sadness, because you can't laugh and be sad at the same time. Like in that second of you laughing, there's a little bit of happiness. So to make people laugh is one of my like main missions in life, because when you're laughing, you're not sad. And it could be just an escape for whatever at the moment, but it's something of joy that is bringing people. So we wanted to create content that was high quality, funny. Sometimes we have some serious things in there, but you don't have to break the bank to create those types of things. So that's where the Broke Energy comes from. Issa Rae, who is amazing, she said one time that, you have to keep that broke energy. And what she meant was that the energy, when you don't have the money to fund everything, you get really creative of how you create things. And so you might have to prop the camera up. You might not have a tripod. You might have to prop the camera up on some shoe boxes, or lay on the ground to film this because you don't have a dolly or something or another. So we just are keeping that energy going, because we both are broke, but we're keeping that energy of staying creative. Like, you don't have to have all this money to be creative and make content. You can make content, as we've seen with like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Like, you can create content on the whim with like $0. So that's where the Broke Energy comes from. But we create sketches. I have my talk show, the Jumpoff, off of that. Bree has her cooking show, which is Meatless Mondays. She's vegan, vegetarian. On Instagram, we've created sketches. We do short, kind of quick little Instagram videos. I, at one point, started rapping, so we did music for a bit there. So we're just really trying to explore.
Oh, we got to hear this.
Oh, see, you know what? It's not for the children, listeners.
Oh, well, you're lucky. This isn't a for the children show sometimes.
Oh, well,
I leave it entirely up to you. I'm not gonna say.
Honestly, yeah.
I'm not gonna ease you into singing. So it's entirely up to you.
I will say, because it has been some months and I low-key have forgotten the lyrics. I know that's a terrible thing to do, but I made one song. It is on my IG. You can follow me at it's Genise, and it's on there. It was a parody, more so, to Meg Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer. It was Thottum Girl Fall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that the recent video where you mentioned finally getting your $1,200 from the IRS, or?
Oh no, this was back in like October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but being,
because that one had me laughing like nonstop. Just saying.
Listen, finally got that check. At first I was like, I guess Donald forgot about me, but whatever. It wouldn't be the first.
Forgot about me too. I was gonna say I still haven't received anything. I'm still jaded.
Oh really?
But, yeah.
Oh,
I don't think I'm getting anything, to tell you the truth, but it is.
See, Donald.
As that one Vine goes, it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
So.
R.I.P.
And then on top of that, I know you. Speaking of videos, there was a similar video, kind of around when all of this got started, where you were deliberating buying sheets with the 1,200.
Oh.
Now, was that also through Broke Energy, or was that something that you kind of just did on your own from home? Or
that was something. It was something I did on my own, but it was under the Broke Energy umbrella of our sketch. just because Bree and I don't live together, so it was my own concoction. I
Mm-hmm.
will say on record, silk sheets are not the thing. Not. I don't. That's a certain type of person that lives with silk sheets, and it ain't me. Anyway, but yeah, whenever we create, because she's created videos by herself, but we just
Mm-hmm.
lump them into our like our sketch umbrella, and when we create long form short, like we've created two short kind of short films. One was the black chapter, like if it was with all black people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did something about the cookout, the infamous cookout that for Black History Month. So those things
Mm-hmm.
we do, those are our bigger productions, but we kind of split everything into separate categories. So even if we're not both in the same sketch, we still consider it a Broke Energy production.
Gotcha. Okay. And then when it comes to the jump off, for listeners that may not be familiar with it, I guess you had mentioned it was kind of like a talk show ish.
Yeah. So the jump off actually started before Broke Energy was a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
the jump off is really, it's a talk show slash just outlet to discuss sometimes taboo topics or topics that people are just afraid to face. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a space where I give my opinion or something that maybe I'm struggling with in hopes that other people can voice how they've dealt with if they've gone through that situation, or advice, or if they're still dealing with it, how they're doing. It started from, so I always wanted to be a talk show host like Oprah. Excuse me. Oprah is like, I was like, man, I want to be the next Oprah when I grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just wanted to have a talk show. And I had a acting teacher. He actually passed away last year, but before he passed away, he said, just do it. Like, why not just make your own talk show? And I'm like, oh no, I don't have the equipment. I can't do this. And so he said, just take your phone. You do have all the equipment that you need. Just do it. So I just set the camera up and I was just like, you know what? Let me just talk about whatever. And then it really kind of transformed into this healing kind of sense for me, because at the time I was living by myself. And so I talked to myself, I'm not going to lie. So it was just a way for me to kind of like talk to myself, but then include other people into the conversation. So I
Mm-hmm.
talk about things from, like depression to online dating, um, down to, let's see, the topic the other day was being in quarantine and about being productive, and then
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you're not prepared for what's coming your way, being at work and feeling like work exhaustion. So
Mm-hmm.
just a wide variety of topics that are relevant to my life, or that somebody has come to me and said, hey, can you make an episode about this? So it's just there as an outlet. And then it transformed into getting me out of my comfort zone and like taking people on the journey with me to face my fears. Like that moment before you, like if you've ever been on a diving board or like jumped off a boat, and it's that moment of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, like I'm about to jump, but then I don't want to jump. And it's just that split second of like, am I going to do it? Am I really going to do it?
Is
And
there
like,
some coral under the water?
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you could always follow what Steve-O does, and he does a 3, 2, 1 go, and then he never backs down from that. So, it's just a matter
Oh
of
shoot.
like, hey, if you want to
Yeah,
do it, get off your ass and do it, and
yeah. And that's really where the jump off is. And y'all definitely have to come on, and people just come on and talk and share their opinions on things, and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
fun time. I don't know. I really like psychology, and so I think just talking to people and understanding where people are coming from and sharing my own opinion is really cool, because it helps people understand how you view the world. So, and I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of conflict comes from people not understanding where someone is coming from on the other side to get to their stance on the situation.
No, this show sounds wonderful, and
definitely.
it's something that I think I checked out that recent episode because I think you had posted it on Instagram. Yeah, it's the show is amazing, and I think that's just it, is trying to have kind of that relatable voice, whether it's somebody that you know loosely or somebody that you're friends with, knowing that they have that kind of a platform that they can, you know, kind of address their, you know, base of friends and colleagues and whatnot, and kind of let them know sort of where they're coming from, where they're at with whatever situation they may be going through, and then having that opportunity to share that with other people that you know, it's definitely healthy. And you know, obviously it's something that we've thus far done with this show. And you know, I think in a lot of ways it's a good method of thinking, just because it's showing people what, you know, any kind of abstract community can look like, whether it's, you know, podcasting, you know, a TV show that's on Instagram or YouTube. Yeah, I'm so excited to see more. You know, you're funny, you're insightful, and it's always something that I enjoy getting to check out when I can. And I guess for the time being, at least, are you working on any upcoming or future episodes, or are you kind of staying on pause for right now in terms of the outbreak and all that wonderful jazz?
I do have a few episodes in the bank that I had previously recorded, because I actually wanted to make a documentary kind of about finding myself. So I have some few things in the bank that I'm going to turn into episodes. So I have that. I also have another project. It's not Jumpoff related, but I'm super, super excited about it. It is, to me, revolutionary for my world and what I've been doing. So the Jumpoff is still there. It's gonna have a slight pause for this new project, but I promise this new project is gonna be worth it.
Fantastic.
I'm holding you to that.
Thank you. I need it.
And remind me, are you still in St. Louis now, or are you back in LA working on this stuff?
I am in St. Louis at the moment, but I will be going back to Los Angeles now. I will say, I know y'all shouldn't be flying on the plane. I know. Just had to put that out there. But I am going to come back, just, you know, in light of everything. I did lose my job at the studio, or get laid off, because, you know, nobody's going to go to this. Okay. Anyway, so I am just trying to figure out, you know, if I need to come back home or stay out there. So it is, you know, when you're not from LA, it's a whole nother world when stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
But I am not going to let that stand in my way, because the idea that I have is, I'm so proud of myself. But I don't want to give anything away. But if I can pull this off, this is going to be like legendary in my world.
Oh
wow.
Well, you definitely know. You can rest assured that we'll be sharing it, kind of just because we're getting close to the end here. Kind of looking ahead, I don't know, I guess what's kind of on your mind in terms of everything going on, and I don't know, things kind of going back to the way they were, or at least resembling some kind of everyday life. I guess what's kind of your outlook or anticipation?
I feel like I have an unpopular opinion. I think the quarantine was needed, or I guess is still, since we still on lockdown. Well, Missouri actually isn't, but in LA. But I think it was needed, because I think everybody needed to hit pause for a second. I think we were all doing a lot. And I think in this time, it's really allowing people to, like you said, explore facets of themselves that they had never explored before. I also think that's why a lot of people are fed up with it, because people haven't sat with themselves, with just themselves. But I think through that exploring, there's going to be a lot of cool opportunities that come out of this. So I think, of course, everything's not going to go back to normal, especially in the entertainment world. But I think
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of cool opportunities for new content and like a new way to create things that will, of course, have hiccups when we first get out of this. But I'm excited to see because when you think about it, we wouldn't have thought that you could, make the Jimmy Fallon show at home. But here
Yeah.
we are,
Mhm.
doing these types of things. So when you're put in a situation like this, you are able to find ways to do things that you didn't think of before. So I think those things will still carry forth when we go into this new normal. But I do think that there will be some opportunities for content that would have never seen the light of day in a broad spectrum to hit
Mm-hmm.
for these, new streaming services, because everybody has a streaming service now, and all of the, TikTok is a thing now too. So I think that when we get back to normal, people will come with a fresher mindset. And I think that in terms of creating content and the entertainment world, there will be a lot more opportunities and people will be more open and accepting to hear things that might have not normally been produced or created in their,
Mm-hmm.
network or their studio. Hopefully,
Right.
that's my hope.
So, Sebastian, I don't know if you have any other questions you want to ask Genise before we let her go.
I'm sold, honestly. Other than, obviously, wishing you well, wishing you safety in that part of the country. I think I can really do nothing more but just, sing your praises. And you got a lot on your plate as of now, and I feel that it's necessary. It really is, due to the uncertainty of what's going on out there in the world. So it's nice as creatives to keep your plate full, to stay hungry, stay hustling. There's a train passing by. Thank you, Industrial Revolution.
Oh,
Sorry, I don't know.
I can just
Okay.
barely hear that too.
Yeah,
That's
it's
creepy.
rolling. So, but no, it's amazing to see yet another person who's making the best of what's been given to them.
I
So
just want to thank y'all so much because this is so cool that the podcast world to me is just one that I'm just like standing with my mouth wide open in awe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like to be able to hold, because I was listening to some of y'all's episodes and I was like, wow, that was an hour? What? But to be able to entertain somebody and to be
oh,
and
this next episode is gonna be anyway. I'm sorry.
no,
It'll be more than an
but
hour.
but to hold somebody's attention for that, especially in today's day and age where people are really quick to just, I want to consume it as quick as I can and keep on moving and
Mm-hmm.
consume as much as I can. So I think this is really cool, and the platform that you all have created is so, so dope. And it's, people like me are just so thankful to just have been thought of, to be on something like this. So I really just want to give y'all some praise on continuing with this and not letting the quarantine and the coronavirus hold y'all back, and if
Mm-hmm.
anything, like strengthen and really get y'all to push through. And I love this so much. And I let me tell you, I do not listen to podcasts, but I was listening like, oh wait, we on the next episode already? Oh shoot, okay.
Yeah,
And
it's the amount of podcasts that I've cycled through over the years, and to feel like I've landed on kind of a set grouping it's weird. In the long term it's weird, but in kind of the short term it's super fun, and I guess if anything podcasts are everlasting.
mm,
Genise, where can the good people find you on social media?
ah So on Facebook, we're at Broke Energy. You just type that in, we're a page. But then on Instagram, it's Broke Energy ENT. And then for the jump off, it's at its_the jump off. And then my personal page is at its Genise, which is Genise, because I know nobody knows how to spell that, but yeah.
And then are you on Twitter as well, or no?
I am, but
Thank you.
I hear you.
Thank you so much for saying that, because Twitter is a cesspool. At least it is as of late. But so I didn't mean to interrupt your handles, your social handles, but
no, it's okay. I agree. Yeah.
Hey, that makes 3 of us. So
thank God.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
So that's it. I'm mainly on Instagram. That's where I thrive.
Okay.
Oh, and YouTube. My page
Yes.
is just Genise.
Yep. No, I found that.
Broke Energy one as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. Excellent. Shugsy, how about you?
God, I haven't heard that name in a while. All right. So the good people can find me not on Twitter as of late. You know, as a little aside, I went on Twitter just to read my messages, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, all right, I just hate I hate the 21st century.
It took 5 minutes to go through your DMs?
No, not the DMs, but you know how like you go on
the
like
notifications.
It wasn't the messages that made me want to just shuffle off this mortal coil. It was the fact that you switch between the feed and the messages and everything. Oh, I might as well check everything. And it took no less than 5 minutes to be like, the 21st century technological revolution was a mistake and it had consequences. So, there's that. But the good people can find me on Instagram at Dr. Sebi. That's DRSEBBY. You can also find me on Google through Sebastian Shug. There you'll find a complete itemized collection of all my works. You can also go to Sebastian Shug Publishing if you'd like to submit a manuscript. Also, a little sort of side project that I've been doing in tandem with YouTube. I didn't mention this for sake of it's kind of small as of now. I actually started uploading narrations through YouTube as well. You can find me there at Seabass. I know. But like I said, it's in tandem with something that I've actually been cooking up recently. So the platform that we use, I've decided to also upload my narrations through Anchor as well, in order to sort of itemize the audio files that have just been sitting desolate on my desktop, I guess you could say. So you can find me on YouTube at Seabass, and you can also find me on Anchor at Shugsy's Storytime.
Ooh, that's fun.
It's
nice.
Just sort of another project that's kind of been in the works. At this point, it's just a matter of what to do with all of my old files. I've also been making stickers on Redbubble as a side hustle, which is interesting to say the least. It's a lot of comedic satire and lowbrow humor that is just itching to get out of my sketchbook. So that's just kind of updated whenever I feel like it. I believe I've talked on long enough. Go ahead, Mancini.
So when I'm not reading Upton Sinclair's How I Got Licked, I'm probably on Instagram being very disappointed or laughing too hard at what I see.
That's your transition?
You can find me at Mancini Ryan on Instagram. And as for Twitter, when I'm not further going down a rabbit hole of scum and villainy, I am jumping around at Mancini RA. Before we let you go, we just would like to thank you so much once again, and happily say, welcome to Mars.
Welcome to Mars.
Thank you all. I love it here.
It's better than Earth, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's a bit cold.
It's a bit cold. I'm about to resign as your co-host. All right, Genise, it's been wonderful. So,
Thanks,
he
yeah.
left the call.
Oh, I was like, I don't know how this. Do I just hang up? Okay, but no, thank you.
No. You know what? Thank you so much, Genise, for everything. It has been a blast, and I think Ryan leaving the call was just the other end of the bit there. So, there he is.
Sorry about that. I don't know what the hell just happened.
Right. Okay.
You left at the most perfect time.
Ah,
We were just wishing. Well, I was just wishing Genise well. And thank you for having on. But that
was perfect.
that was perfect. It really was.
Yes.
We're keeping that in. No,
the good thing is that it stayed recording. So this is thankfully.
No, that was the joke.
And I got scared for a second because I thought, oh well, there goes the episode. Hopefully Sebastian's got it. All right, now I'm gonna click stop recording. Okay.
You've been listening to Mars on Life. Please make sure that you find us over on social media at Mars on Life Show on both Twitter and on Instagram. And on top of that, you can find this show on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Our artwork is done by Zachary Erberich, and our intro music is Space Explorers by Kevin MacLeod. I've been Ryan Mancini. My co-host, as always, is Sebastian Shug. And just remember, if you keep on going, you'll make it to Mars.